You are looking live at Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where the Roscosmos Soyuz 2.1A booster stands fully fueled, ready to launch just 21 minutes, 20 seconds from now, on a delivery run to send 2.8 tons of cargo to the International Space Station. Good evening from Mission Control in Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Several hours ago, this Soyuz booster was fueled for launch following a meeting of the Roscosmos State Commission. All of the systems on the three-stage Soyuz are ready to begin the journey, an 8-minute, 46-second journey to deliver the Progress into its preliminary orbit. The Progress will be traveling on a 33-orbit, 2-day rendezvous to automatically link up to the aft port of the Zvezda Service Module on the International Space Station on Monday night. We'll get into a breakdown on the cargo being delivered to the International Space Station and the Expedition 74 crew just a few moments from now. The flight of the Soyuz booster to its preliminary orbit is being handled by launch engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur. Once we have third stage separation and spacecraft separation of the Progress itself from the third stage of the Soyuz booster, control of the rest of the flight of the Soyuz over the next 2 days will be handled by Russian flight controllers that you see there at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov on the outskirts of Moscow. Everything continues to be in readiness. The weather in Baikonur is excellent. Balmy temperatures of about 62 degrees Fahrenheit, only partly cloudy skies. The launch is scheduled at 5:21 and 47 seconds p.m. Central Time, 6:21 and 47 seconds p.m. Eastern Time, 3:21 a.m. Baikonur time on Sunday morning, April 26th. The cargo breakdown for the delivery run of the Progress to the International Space Station consists of a total of 5,748 pounds of cargo. That's the equivalent of 2.8 tons. That breaks down to 2,971 pounds of dry cargo, 1,741 pounds of fuel, 926 pounds of water, and 110 pounds of oxygen and air. The flight profile will call for the liftoff, again, at 5:21 and 47 seconds p.m. Central Time, just 18.5 minutes from now. 1 minute, 58 seconds into the flight, we will have first stage separation. The strap-on boosters and the first stage will separate from the rest of the Soyuz booster. At 3 minutes and 3 seconds into the mission, we will see the jettisoning of the launch shroud that is enveloping the Progress itself, the unpiloted Progress cargo ship. 4 minutes and 47 seconds after launch, we'll have second stage separation, and then 4 minutes later, we'll have third stage separation and spacecraft separation from the upper stage or the third stage of the Soyuz booster, followed seconds later by the deployment of the solar arrays and the navigational antennas, which will guide the Progress toward its destination, the aft port of the Zvezda Service Module, and an automated docking on Monday evening. At this hour, aboard the International Space Station, the 7 crew members are asleep, led by the space station commander, Sergei Kud-Sverchkov. He's joined by his Roscosmos colleagues, Sergei Mikheyev and Andrei Fedyaev. 3 NASA astronauts are on board the station, Chris Williams, Jessica Meir, and Jack Hathaway. They are all joined by Sophie Adano of the European Space Agency. The 7-person crew currently flying from northwest to southeast in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator at an altitude of some 260 statute miles. Some of the countdown milestones that you can expect to hear over the next 16 minutes prior to liftoff. will include, at the T-minus 7-minute mark, the rotation of a key in the launch automated mode sequencer in the launch bunker at Baikonur. This will initiate the ground launch sequencer for the automatic control of the final minutes of the countdown. At the T-minus 4-minute 15-second mark, we'll see the activation of recorders in the Launch Control Center on which telemetry from the launch vehicle is documented, followed seconds later by the purging of nitrogen on the fuel lines and other elements of the rocket engines to fireproof them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer from the base of the launch vehicle itself. At about the 2-minute 45-second mark in the countdown, the fuel and oxidizer tanks will be pressurized. This optimizes the flow of fuel and to provide additional structural rigidity to the launch vehicle as it sits on the launch pad there, Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The vehicle will be placed on internal power after that, and we'll be standing by for the beginning of the retraction of the first of the two umbilicals that are buttressed up against the Soyuz 2.1A vehicle. The first umbilical will be retracted at about the T-minus 35-second mark, followed some 18 seconds later at the T-minus 17-second mark by the retraction of the second umbilical. That will initiate the starting of the engine ignition sequence. The engines will come up to full throttle, the hold-down posts will be retracted, and the Soyuz will lift off to begin its journey 8 minutes and 46 seconds from liftoff to spacecraft separation for the Progress cargo ship. We're at T-minus 14 minutes, 25 seconds until launch. Everything has gone very smoothly throughout the course of the day for the launch engineers in Baikonur as we stand by for the liftoff of the latest resupply ship for Roscosmos to the International Space Station. This past Monday, the aft port of the Zvezda Service Module was vacated with the undocking of the 93 Progress cargo ship that completed a 7-month stay at the International Space Station. So the aft port is open for business, ready to accept the 95 Progress cargo ship on Monday night, and an automated docking that is scheduled at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Standing by at the controls of the backup rendezvous system, should it become necessary. The telerobotically operated rendezvous system, or TORU system, will be the station commander Sergei Sverchkov and his Roscosmos colleague Sergei Mikheyev. They'll be standing by in the unlikely event that it would be necessary for them to manually fly the Progress in for its docking. Because of the hour of the docking on Monday night, the hatch to the Progress 95 cargo ship will not be opened until Tuesday morning, and at that point, Sverchkov and Mikheyev will begin unloading the cargo. Once again, 2.8 tons of cargo, food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 74 crew on board the International Space Station. Down in Baikonur, the Soyuz 2.1A launch vehicle rolled out to the launch pad at Site 31, about a 30-minute journey from the integration building at Site 31. That occurred several days ago. The vehicle was hauled to its vertical position hydraulically from its rail car, at which point the launch engineering team hooked up the fuel lines, the electrical lines, data lines, and began the final several days of launch pad preparations, which will culminate just 11.5 minutes from now with the launch of the Progress to the International Space Station. At the time of launch, the International Space Station and its 7 crew members will be flying over the South Atlantic on a southwest to northeasterly trajectory, and the race will begin for the Progress to catch up to the International Space Station for its automated docking on Monday night. This will include several so-called DV burns, delta velocity burns, that will alter the trajectory, basically rendezvous maneuvers that will enable the Progress to increase its altitude in a stair-step fashion to match that of the International Space Station for its final approach and rendezvous operations on Monday evening. Once the Progress arrives in the vicinity of the International Space Station on Monday evening, it will conduct a fly-around. This is all automated. Conduct a fly-around of the International Space Station to precisely align itself with the aft docking port of the Zvezda Service Module as the Russian flight controllers assess its precise alignment before giving the go for its final approach and contact and capture. We are inside 10 minutes before launch. Once again, no issues being worked by the launch control team in Baikonur. We have a 25-second launch window tonight. The countdown proceeding on schedule. The Soyuz 2.1A booster fully fueled, ready to begin its journey to deliver the Progress into its preliminary orbit. And just to reiterate what we said earlier, the Soyuz booster's flight of 8 minutes and 46 seconds from launch until spacecraft separation is governed by the launch control team in the blockhouse in Baikonur. Once the Progress separates from the upper stage or third stage of the Soyuz 2.1A booster, control of the rest of the flight of Progress to the International Space Station through docking is controlled by the flight control team at the Russian Mission Control Center on the outskirts of Moscow.
Есть готовность ППТ жду в 30-й. Доклад 30-го принял, первый.
We are coming up on the point in the countdown where the launch count itself will transition to an automatic launch sequencer.
Минутная готовность, первый. Минутную готовность принял, 20-й. Минутную готовность принял, 30-й. Минутную готовность принял, 50-й. Минутную готовность принял, 60-й. Минутную готовность принял, 70-й. 60-й сброшенного объекта.
You're hearing launch engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur reporting the milestones in the final minutes of the countdown. We are at T-minus 6 minutes, 57 seconds and counting.
Первый, есть готовность системы измерений, 70-й. Доклад 70-го принял, первый. Первый, сброшенного объекта проведен, замечаний нет, космический аппарат к запуску готов, 60-й. Есть готовность систем комплекса, 30-й. Доклады руководителя работ принял. Первый.
The Soyuz 2.1A booster is a 3-stage rocket. Progress is nestled into the upper stage. The shroud that envelops the Progress itself will be jettisoned at the 3-minute, 3-second mark into the flight. Coming up on T-minus 6 minutes, mark, T-minus 6 minutes and counting. The rest of the countdown being governed by the automatic launch sequencer. Breaking down the cargo that the Progress is carrying to the station once again. 2,971 pounds of dry cargo, 1,741 pounds of fuel, 926 pounds of water, and 110 pounds of oxygen and air. A total of 5,748 pounds of cargo, or 2.8 tons. And the fuel lines for the first stage now being purged with nitrogen. T-minus 4 minutes, 35 seconds and counting. Flight recorders now being activated. T-minus 4 minutes and counting. No issues being worked. The liftoff time once again, 5:21 and 47 seconds p.m. Central Time, 3:21 a.m. in Baikonur on a Sunday morning. Coming up on the T-minus 3 minute mark.
Есть дренаж 30-й. Есть дренаж 70-й.
Coming up on the pressurization of the fuel and oxidizer tanks. T-minus 2 minutes 45 seconds.
Есть дренаж 20-й. Доклады принял, первый. Надув. Есть надув 70-й. Есть ГДМ блока И 70-й. Есть надув общий 30-й. Есть надув общий 70-й. Есть сброс шау системы измерений.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting. Everything is go.
Доклады руководителя работ принял, первый.
We'll be watching for the first of those 2 umbilicals to retract at about the T-minus 35 second mark. 90 seconds till launch. Pressurization now complete. T-minus 1 minute.
Земля, борт. Есть переход на бортовое питание блока 30 ступеней. Есть дополнительный, есть замок 20. Есть мачта 20.
The first umbilical now retracting. T-minus 25 seconds and counting.
Пуск. Пуск. Зажигание.
The second umbilical retracting. We have a go for engine start.
Предварительное.
We have main engine start. Engines up to full turbo speed.
Главное.
And liftoff. Liftoff of the 95th Progress resupply mission to the International Space Station. The vehicle has cleared the tower. Engines at maximum thrust, arcing out to the northeast over the Central Asian desert. All control parameters reported to be normal from the blockhouse in Baikonur. Good roll and pitch. Lighting up the night skies on a Sunday morning. The vehicle reported to be stable, having disappeared into the clouds over Baikonur. Chamber pressure for the engines nominal. 1 minute 4 seconds into the flight. Yaw, pitch, and roll all normal, reported by the engineers at the blockhouse in Baikonur. Everything looking very good. All parameters are green. 90 seconds into the flight. Roll, pitch, and yaw, all nominal. Everything looking very good on first stage performance. We're expecting booster shutdown, first stage separation in just a few seconds. And we have first stage shutdown.
Есть выключение двигателей боковых блоков. Есть отделение боковых блоков. 130.
And we have first stage separation. The second stage engines up and running. The vehicle is stable, heading uphill.
140. Параметры конструкции ракеты-носителя в норме.
2.5 minutes into the flight. All structural parameters are normal. 6 minutes, 15 seconds of powered flight remaining. Second stage engine performance nominal, according to the blockhouse in Baikonur.
Стабилизация изделия устойчивая.
The vehicle is reported to be stable as we pass the 3-minute mark into the flight. We have the jettisoning of the launch shroud.
190. Есть сброс створок головного обтекателя.
3 minutes, 20 seconds into the flight. 5.5 minutes of powered flight remaining, everything looking good.
Второй ступени работает нормально.
The second stage engine is running flawlessly so far. Everything looking great. All the control parameters reported to be normal from the blockhouse in Baikonur. A steady ride uphill so far for the Progress 95 cargo ship.
230. Стабилизация изделия устойчивая.
All the vehicle parameters are stable and nominal.
Двигатель второй ступени работает нормально.
The second stage should be shutting down and separating about 30 seconds or so from now. Now the view from the television camera on the upper stage of the Soyuz 2.1A. About 20 seconds away from second stage shutdown and separation. Very steady ride for the Soyuz heading uphill. And we have confirmation of second stage shutdown and separation, third stage engine up and running. Vehicle reported to be stable, 5 minutes 20 seconds into the flight, 3.5 minutes of powered flight remaining. Good reports coming from the blockhouse in Baikonur. A very, very smooth ride for the Soyuz 2.1A booster. Five minutes, 45 seconds into the flight, 3 minutes of powered flight remaining. Six minutes into the flight. Liftoff time once again was 5:21 and 47 seconds p.m. Central Time, 3:21 and 47 seconds a.m. Baikonur time on Sunday morning. All structural parameters continue to be normal. Good ride uphill so far for the Progress 95 cargo craft. 6.5 minutes into the flight. Mark 7 minutes into the flight. 1 minute 45 seconds of powered flight remaining. Third stage is running very smoothly. Good structural parameters. Vehicle reported to be very, very stable. Seven minutes, 45 seconds into the flight. 1 minute of powered flight remaining. Good third stage performance. 8 minutes, 5 seconds into the flight. About 30 seconds of powered flight remaining. 8.5 minutes into the flight, everything continues to go very smoothly on the ride uphill for Progress 95. Standing by for third stage shutdown and spacecraft separation. We have third stage shutdown and separation. The Soyuz booster has done its job. Now we'll stand by for solar array deploy and navigational antenna deploy. And we have confirmation of solar array deploy, and all navigational antennas have deployed, all of them. A perfect ride uphill for the Soyuz 2.1A booster, delivering the Progress 95 cargo craft into its preliminary orbit. Over the next several orbits of the Progress's flight, there'll be a series of delta velocity burns of the Progress engines to slowly but surely increase its altitude to match that of the International Space Station as it begins its 2-day journey for an automated docking to the aft port of the Zvezda Service Module on Monday evening. And there's our first view from the external television camera on the Progress, showing the familiar cross-haired engineering view. This is Mission Control Houston. You're looking at a view half a world away at the Russian Mission Control Center on the outskirts of Moscow, where the flight controllers there in that cavernous room have now taken over control of the Progress 95 journey to the International Space Station that will culminate with an automated docking on Monday night. The Progress lifted off atop the Soyuz 2.1A booster on time at 5:21 and 47 seconds p.m. Central Time. It was 3:21 and 47 seconds a.m. Baikonur time on Sunday morning. The 8-minute 46-second ride uphill was uneventful. All of the Soyuz booster stages performed perfectly, delivering the Progress into its preliminary orbit and the beginning of a 33-orbit 2-day journey that will wrap up with that automated docking and the delivery of 2.8 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 74 crew. That coverage of rendezvous and docking will begin at 6:15 p.m. Central Time, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday evening. Docking is scheduled 45 minutes after that, at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So you'll want to join us on Monday night for our coverage of the Progress 95's arrival at the International Space Station. In the meantime, we'll wrap up our coverage for this evening. A flawless launch of Progress atop its Soyuz booster rocket, Progress on its way to the International Space Station. Have a good evening and a good weekend. This is Mission Control Houston.